Hello and welcome to another rendition of Math is Easy Step by Step. So today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting rules for fractions. And you need to understand the rules for multiplying and dividing fractions are much more different. So here, the number one rule that you must follow when adding and subtracting is you have to have the same denominator. What's the denominator? That's just the bottom number of the fraction. So it has to be the same before you can add and subtract the numerator. That's the top number. That's all we're focusing on, is adding that or subtracting that top number once the denominator is the same. Because the denominator will always stay the same. Once you have that same denominator or bottom number, it stays the same throughout. You do not add or subtract the denominator. You simply add it into your answer. It stays the same. So rule number two is, if you do not have denominators that are exactly the same, then you need to manipulate, and you need to find the least common multiple in order to manipulate the denominators so they can be the same. And I'll show you an example of that here in a moment. We will use that least common multiple to manipulate and find the least common denominator. So here in our first example, I would like to show you adding 1/2 plus 2/5. So here you can see we do not have that same common denominator, but we need to have the same common denominator in order to add or subtract. So step one in this process is to find the least common multiple. Now, what number does both 2 and 5 share? Well, I know 2 and 5 share the number 10. And in order to manipulate this first fraction, I need to multiply the top and the bottom by 5. 2 times 5 is 10, and 1 times 5 is 5. Plus, what number does 5 and 2 share? Again, it shares 10. So what do I multiply the denominator here by? By 2. 5 times 2 is 10. What I do to the bottom, I gotta do to the top. So 2 times 2 is 4. But let's say you were struggling and you didn't know that. You didn't have that information. I use here what's called a T-chart. I have the two denominators set up here on a T-chart at the top. I'm going to multiply each of these denominators by 1, by 2, by 3, all the way down to 10 if I have to. If I got to go to 11, 12, 13, 14, all the way to 20 to find the common denominator, I'm going to do that. So 1 by 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 5 is 10. And if you keep going down, you can see here that 2 times 10 is 20. I'm going to start with 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. Now I'm going to stop there for the sake of time, and you can see here both 5 and 2 share 20. But it's not the least common multiple that we can find. Here we can see that 2 times 5 is 10 and 5 times 2 is 10. So they both can share the same common denominator of 10 by multiplying 5 times 2 and then multiplying 2 times 5, which is what you see up here in this step above. So step 2 would be to multiply both top and bottom by the least common multiple. Again, what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. What you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Plus. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 2 is 10. Do we have the same common denominators here? We do. Absolutely. Now we can add the numerators or the numbers on top. 5 plus 4 is 9. Steps 3 and 4, add and reduce. Is there a number I can divide into 9 that I could also divide into 10 evenly without a remainder other than 1? No. I know my fraction is reduced. 9/10 is my final answer. Stick around for some more examples of adding and subtracting with fractions.